We begin tonight with the capsizing of the Francie as it attempted to cross the Kaipara harbour bar on Saturday afternoon. Coming up, we'll hear from another skipper operating out of Kaipara who says he was so concerned about the Francie's bar crossing that he raised the issue with Maritime New Zealand. This could and should have been prevented, Tony Wallace says. He's next. But first, as the Francie capsized and the 11 men on board were fighting for their lives in big swirls and strong winds, 18-year-old Jackson Knight was taking his new four-wheel drive for a spin along the beach. He had no idea what was unfolding offshore from him. Not yet, anyway.
We were clueless. We were driving along the beach, and so the first kind of thing that we kind of seen was just a stock standard surf that had pulled over and was picking up two chili bins, and I was like, oh, they've just lost their chili bins off their roof, or they haven't tied it off properly, or didn't really think too much of it. And I kept driving along, and then just seen kind of household items like a little bag of white sugar and like some dishwashing liquid and just heaps of really weird like sunblock and just stuff like that. And then kept driving along, and then I just turned to my mate and I was like, oh, some yuppies flipped their boat out there. And then we kind of just had a joke about it, and then just carried along and then we looked down at the surf, and next thing we see is a Westpac helicopter circling, and we're like, oh shit, wonder what's happened down there. And then we seen the Coast Guard plane that was driving around, and we're like, oh, that can't be good. And then we seen the helicopter drop down and start hovering, and then we seen the diver or whoever went down on the winch, and then we see the winch come back up, and we're like, that's like something's happening. This isn't, it can't be happening. And then just next thing we know, the helicopter is just flying straight towards us, and we're like, whoa, no way! Like they're not coming to land. Like they're not coming to land by us. And then they just landed in front of our trucks, and there's a dead man hanging off the winch. And so me and my mate ran over, and he was a dude. Just I don't know. He was just looked like it was just a mannequin. I was just didn't want to believe that it was a body. And then he got lowered down and just lifeless. And then so he got dragged up the beach, and then there was two people that were alive who jumped out on the other side of the helicopter. And so we kind of ran over to them and gave them the tomatoes and the water and kind of all the warm clothes we had off our back kind of thing. And then kind of put them in our trucks and put our, the one truck that had a heater, and we just whacked them in there, and we turned the heater on and tried to get them all warm and just made sure they were okay. And then about 10 minutes later, after the helicopter had dropped the first three off, it shot back out and it brought in another two dead bodies. And so we kind of were like, oh. And then by the time they'd brought the other two dead bodies in, we kind of talked to the two survivors, and they told us that there was 11 people on board, and they reckon they thought they crashed tipped down to about 1 o'clock, but it ended up being about 3, I think, or 2:30 or something. And then just kind of they just asked how many survivors and shit like that. And then probably must have been about 20 minutes, half an hour after we'd had the 3 dead bodies and the 2 people that were alive, back up the beach from where we'd just come, there's probably about 150 metres back up the beach, you kind of just seen like a really faint, just kind of square object just kind of crawling out of the surf. And so me and my mate jumped in my truck and shot back up the beach, and then we came to find that it was the other survivor who was on all fours. He was a bigger man, and he was just, I don't know, he looked lifeless, but his old ticker was just still pumping. And then as soon as we got to him, we kind of tried lifting him up because the tide was coming in and didn't want to kind of write the truck off. So we took him a while to jump up to his feet because he's in a bit of pain. And then and then my truck was too tall for him to step into because he's a bigger man. He wasn't very tall. And then we tried lifting him onto the flat deck of my truck and couldn't get him onto there. So we ran up the beach and picked up a log, and then ran the log back down to my truck so he could step on that. And it was still a bit of an effort to get him into the truck. And then once he was in, we shot back down the beach to the paramedic, and like took him out in the truck and shoved him in the one with the heater, and then warmed him up, and he was a bit more hurt, but he was a battler for sure. I know I was worried he was going to die after fighting the surf, and he was going to die in my truck or in my hands or in someone else's truck, and so just made sure we got him back to the paramedic, and then the paramedic checked him out, and he was all good, but it was pretty horrific.
So you saw all 3 survivors, Jackson?
Yeah. Yeah, we had all 3 survivors in the truck.
And how many of them had life jackets on, or had life jackets with them?
The dude the bigger dude that got washed
came out of the
beach,
surf, yeah.
Yeah, he had 2 under each arm, and then he was fully naked, and
so he was almost cradling them or carrying them, was he?
Yeah, pretty much. He just kind of had each arm just had it through the head hole of the life jacket.
Right. And the other 2 men, did they have life jackets on or near them or with them?
They were just holding them.
And what did they say? Did they say anything about crossing the bar or coming in, or why they went out on such a day, or any of that kind of stuff?
No, well, they were just in shock, and I didn't really want to question them. The last thing I'd want to, after coming in from something like that, I wouldn't want to be questioned, so we just kind of asked them how many people were on board so we had kind of some little idea, but they just reckon it all happened so fast, so then we got out of them that it capsized, but I think they were coming back in through the bar, and a wave caught them from behind and pushed them over, and just said it happened all so fast, and they were just kind of confused and just in a bit of shock.
And what was the sea like?
Oh, you'd be mad. It was like when we were up the back and like up in the dunes and stuff, you'd see whitewash for just for miles. You couldn't tell kind of where the break stopped.
Mm. Are there any circumstances under which you would have gone out fishing?
You'd have to be mad. I wouldn't even go jet skiing out there. I probably thought it wasn't even really surfing weather. You'd have to be mad.
Jackson Knight, who had all 3 of the survivors in his truck at one stage,